Welcome everyone to a Delco Nerd Network hot take. If you haven't seen a hot take before, well, it's where a few friends, we get in a basement and we give our thoughts, we give our opinions on a TV show, a movie, or a game. Today, it's going to be a movie, and that movie is Blue Beetle. My name is Anthony Ragucci, here to discuss, as always, El Triple Imanes. Chris Trio. That's the triple threat in Spanish.
Wow. Well, good job, Gooch.
Thanks, man. I told you I had a bit.
Made it. That is a bit.
Yeah, I did make it.
You said my nickname in another language. That's really good. I liked it.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. How are you?
Good. I could have done like Black Panther and like Wakandan or something.
There probably is like the actual Wakandan alphabet out there. Someone definitely did that.
Yeah.
You can definitely speak Wakandan. I'm sure of it. It's like Klingon, like that. You can take Klingon
or like,
for certain college courses. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Or Dragon Speak.
Yeah.
Skyrim.
Right.
Because they developed that language fully.
Right. Not that. I'm assuming you can speak Dothraki too. I'm sure.
Yeah.
All of that.
Definitely.
Yeah, I love how we're comparing some very real language to
fake language.
Anyway, yeah, Gooch, Blue Beetle. I want you to start this time. What did you think? Baseline, general thoughts of the most bluest of Beetles.
This is a hard one to have an opinion about. I feel because it's so middle of the road. It's not really great at all. And it's not really bad. It doesn't do anything that really we haven't seen before. And it doesn't do anything extraordinarily bad or of low quality that I just like. I'm just struggling to really have like a hot take at all or any sort of take.
I don't mean to interrupt you in the middle here, but what you're telling me is that this movie, it's fine.
I thought you were going to say mid.
No, I don't. We're not 16 years old. We don't use mid here. No,
remember when I said mid and you're like, did you say mid?
What just happened? So it's just, I'm sorry, but it's fine.
It's fine. I guess it's a good foot to start the DCU off, but it feels like this could have been a bigger stride in a different shoe.
Sure.
Was this a bad movie to start with? I don't necessarily think so, but I think not any other movie, but another movie with a bigger character like Superman starting us off on that foot, I just could have immediately been a bigger stride, right?
But Gooch, the Flash already started us out on a bigger foot.
Again,
that's how...
Right.
So that's the confusion thing, yeah.
It is the confusing thing. So what do you think? Is it just fine? Where are you going with this?
I'll start with the things that I liked, which I think vastly outnumber the things that I did not like.
Okay.
One of them would be the characters for sure. I really liked Jaime. How do you say? Or what's the guy's name who plays him?
Zolo.
It is Zolo. Yeah.
His first name is Zolo. I don't know his last name.
He was really fantastic in the role. I think he was very electric. He made me want to keep watching. I enjoyed his interactions with his family, especially. They all felt real and like they felt like they actually had a history, and it didn't feel like we were just kind of popping into this, family who was just made up. Cool to see a lot of, representation and stuff like that too. I was with my girlfriend came with us who is Brazilian. Obviously not. It's not the same thing. Exactly. But she definitely walked out feeling like she's like, oh, there's some cool references that I got, especially in there.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up there were some clear references to touchstones that she picked up on immediately,
definitely,
and got an emotion or a laugh out of.
For sure,
me and you.
For sure. I mean, I think we were enjoying it, but it definitely wasn't hitting us on the same level because obviously we don't get that reference exactly. But otherwise, I thought the CG was pretty well done in this. I thought the suit itself looked amazing. Yeah, it really, you couldn't nail that Blue Beetle suit any better. I did like the world building of Blue Beetle itself, the character itself and things like that. I felt like they actually focused on what was on their plate for once, which was nice. I'm not really looking at this as the start of the DCU. I'm looking at this as the Blue Beetle movie, and I think it's
kind of like the same start Iron Man would be if we didn't know where we were going.
Exactly, and that's kind of what these movies should be. Focus on the character that's in front of you and take care of their story and focus on their story first. And I think Zolo and his representation of Jaime is amazing. But I think where this movie falls short is in a lot of the tropes we just re-experience from other superhero origin movies that, have just been kind of beaten to death, namely being the guy who's in the same suit as you fighting you. So that's
the reverse rival. It's the same thing. He's got the same experience. The trope of, family being important. Yeah. It's just oh my God.
It's a little bit too on the nose.
I get it. It's a very shared experience with most human beings in the world, but like we've seen this so many times, like how like it's not original.
There
so,
are
like,
just
I
a
just
lot
don't
of
care.
boilerplate superhero, origin story stuff
Right,
within
the
this movie.
industrialist villain.
For
we
sure.
have that villain in Susan Sarandon's
And she's even a bit
Victoria,
like too cartoony for my liking at some degrees too. Yeah,
and then
who's Ted
Carapax.
Cord's sister, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Susan Sarandon actually was pretty bad in this movie. I think
she does fine with what she is given, but
she's serving the script, nothing else.
She's a very cartoonishly evil villain, which I don't necessarily like. One of my favorite examples of a villain, and you can tell they definitely took inspiration from this in any superhero movie, and I will die on this hill, is Michael Keaton's Vulture in the original Spider-Man. He's incredibly well done.
Not the original Spider-Man, Homecoming.
Sorry, yeah, for the MCU, I should say. But he's very well done. You feel for him. He's not cartoonishly evil. He does some evil things, but it's all within the realm of things that make sense within the story. This just felt like over the top, and they were just trying to drive certain things home. So I wasn't the biggest fan of the villains in this. Again, I think where it shines most is with its characters and bringing Jaime to life, because we've never seen this character, and he's definitely more of a C-lister for sure.
And it's first Latino superhero right now on screen? Question mark?
I'm pretty sure. Maybe, right? I guess you'd be correct. Unless please correct us in the comments.
Yeah, I think the representation is there.
Like that got their own movie. You said, because I'm sure
got their own movie.
Yeah,
not like actual.
That has shown up. Sure.
Yeah, like the representation definitely seems to be there. Just like it was for like, Black Panther. Yeah, I it just felt like it felt like a very Latino family could go see that and have a good time, because it's like,
and
it's
of course, exactly, yeah, you can
for them,
absolutely.
Just like it was for your girlfriend.
Big representation for sure, and I think that's a great part of it. I did like,
and that is like the heart of the movie.
Definitely,
it's really kind of why I'm saying that, because I'm like if that cultural aspect wasn't there, it'd be a very vanilla.
For sure, and even if the family's dynamic was just as strong, I do think that adds a layer, like you're saying, of like that makes it very different and even more interesting. So I don't know. I definitely wanted. If this was the first movie 10 years ago, like before all, like if this was truly the beginning to a cinematic universe back in the day, I do think maybe it would be received different. It's getting like a $29 million opening, which is exactly what people thought. That's very bad.
Yeah, this movie's gonna flop.
It's sad, because I do think this movie doesn't deserve that. I think it handles its comedy especially incredibly well, in my opinion. I don't think they use it to undercut. I think it's fair to say that an issue that you have with Marvel is that they use their comedy to undercut very serious moments. Would you agree?
Yeah.
I don't find that this movie does that very often. There was one time that I didn't like it, that I actually feel like it did, and that was his like suit up scene, which I thought was incredibly different and honestly unsettling when he was getting taken over by the Beetle, and like this black goo is just, I like that effect of like it's like infecting forming him over his body, and he's like screaming, he's like, help me, like.
But you know what's funny? We've seen this before, Venom.
For sure, but I don't think it's like,
I'm just going back to the fact that we've seen tropes like this. Like this isn't like necessarily like we've seen it like once before. But it's not like super original, but I do hear what you're saying. I think
this is very original compared to even Venom. Like Venom, he just gets like the black goo takes him over. Like this looked seriously distressing to Jaime as it's happening, and he's like freaking out. He's looking at his parents, but then I think they kind of start to undercut it a little bit more with George Lopez's humor in that, where he's like, he's being possessed. I'm like, no, you should let it sit in that a little bit more. And but most of the other times, I think it did that very well and let those moments have the breath that they need. I did like the action a lot in this. I appreciated that it's not like anything crazy original, but it wasn't cut to shit. You're just showing punches of people getting punched. You could see what's happening in the action. There was a lot of moments where you definitely saw shit ripped right out of Injustice. That moment where he pushes him back and he like lifts up.
There's a moment from Young Justice where Blue Beetle uses his chest thing to shoot Robin back.
Yeah.
And it's from Young Justice. But I think there is an Injustice 2, with his like.
Yeah, he absolutely forms it. Yeah. I like all the stuff that they do with his armor and just his different weapons.
They do like the clip things. Yeah, like,
it's very cool. Yeah, I appreciated that a lot.
I'm excited. I'm assuming we'll see more of Jaime Reyes in the DCU, but as to what level, I don't know. But I think there's like a lot more character to explore for him, because if you think about it, we really only got his origin and not even really anything with the Scarab.
Well, I was going to mention that.
And the Reach.
They really do
and
kind
Green
of
Beetle and Black Beetle.
So that's where I think
they're going.
Spoiler. We find out. So Ted Kord has disappeared throughout this whole thing, which I appreciate that they didn't ignore him or like retcon him out of this.
Right.
I was very happy.
I was like, he ain't dead.
No, he's. I was very happy
big character
that they brought him back. And it's funny. I was talking to you. I mean, we were talking about this. It is funny. He's just like a super spy back in. And they even kind of go over it a little bit in this. He's like Batman, but he's like got less money.
Yeah. So Ted Kord is gone, and we don't know. And at the end of the movie, we find out that he is alive. We don't know where he is, but I like how they let us know that Ted Kord's going to be.
I think he's with the Reach and the aliens.
Yeah.
That's my assumption of that's where they would go with this next one. It's again. I don't know, Gooch. I have a question for you. Is the DC brand poisoned?
I think it's been just like when Evan Moore,
especially with
the
this
show, said, has Star Wars been bad? Star Wars has been, I forget the term, bad or whatever he said, bad since like 1972.
When do you think it's been bad since then?
The 80s.
Oh, okay. I'm talking about this. Okay.
Not bad, but like it's been.
I mean, because of like recent events.
Did you say corrupt?
Like, no. I mean poisoned. In like the mind of people's mind.
It's been poisoned since Batman 89. Because then we got Val Kilmer, and then we got all these weird Batman. It was
no, but those still did well. That's not what I'm talking about. Like in that poison. I'm saying poisoned in the mind of people wanting to go see a movie. Oh. Like when they see the DC brand, do they just go? And I guess anything else now, like, no. I don't know if I'm going to go see that.
Joker and the Batman kind of prove your point wrong.
Okay. But recently.
I mean, that is kind of recent, don't you think?
Batman's Batman, for sure. I guess anything that you say, anything that isn't Batman, is it fucked? I know Joker. Joker is big, and Batman seems to always, as long as you have someone good behind the helm, do something well. And even Batman vs Superman, it didn't make as much money as they wanted it to, but it still made a lot of money.
And I think much to your debate, I think Zack Snyder's Justice League did well. That received a lot of attention, and
unfortunately, we just can't know because it was only released on streaming, and that's a whole nother sidebar. But I agree. I think that was received much better, and I think if we could go back in time and get the WB execs to release a theater version of that film and continue on, we might be in a different spot. But I do think people are just starting to see the DC thing, and it isn't Batman, and they're like, I don't know, I don't really care. Like, I hope that Superman can be the one to truly do that because he is such a megalithic character, and maybe he can bring those people back to the theater, and then when they see that, they can go like, oh, this is what this is building off. This is great. Maybe we can get more vested in this again, but I don't know, man. I like if Aquaman doesn't do well, that's saying something, because I do think Jason Momoa has power behind his name, and people did enjoy that first one. It made a lot of money. So I'm very curious to see what happens with DC here, and it makes me sad because I do think this is a movie. It is
a big question.
This isn't a movie that deserves to only make $29 million, in my opinion. I really don't agree with that, and I think a lot of people would actually enjoy this even more than like The Flash if they go in probably.
It's a bit easier to chew for sure.
Oh, 100%. And again, it's because
The Flash is not an easy movie to chew.
I think there is another universe where they just make the Flash movie about the Flash, and that movie does way better. But I don't know. It is funny. It's like talking to people, and they didn't even realize. Like, what do you mean? Michael Keaton was back. What are you talking about? Like, I'm like, what? Yeah, he was in the Flash. Like kind of normies. Like when you talk to them, a lot of them don't realize. Like, I don't know if they're like, because there was marketing everywhere for the Flash and just all this, but like people were like, oh, he's in this. Like I just people I talked to in my life, like, oh yeah, he came back for that. They're like, oh, I didn't know that. Maybe I'll go see that. And I think that's what they were kind of aiming for with that and like some star power. But I don't know, man. I'm afraid for the DC brand, and it makes me sad because I do like the DC characters more, and I want to see. I want to see them get a very well. I want to see them get the treatment they deserve. I hope James Gunn knows what he's doing with. I believe he does. He hasn't made a movie that I have disliked since Guardians. So I think he can really do something special with Superman, but I'm wondering if people are going to be tired of it by then. I'm hoping not, because a Superman movie hasn't come out in over 10 years, really by itself.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Gooch. We'll see, though. I'm sorry for my long tangent.
It's okay. I was just gonna say, let's take it back to Blue Beetle a bit. One thing I really liked, and I want to compare it and kind of pitch maybe this idea that whatever this DCU world is going to be a lot different than ours. Because if you think about Marvel and the term of the MCU, it's our world with superheroes. There's like almost no difference.
For sure.
Obviously, there's some technological leaps, but as it would be. But
of course.
Palermo City seems like this
like technological capital,
cyberpunk, like early cyberpunk like city with like neon signs and this like synthwave aesthetic that I really dug. Like the title card for Blue Beetle I really liked with the blue and the pink.
Great vibes.
Yeah, like I'm really down with those vibes, and it kind of reminded me of the way Bruce Timm and Paul Dini kind of wrote Gotham and Metropolis in the DC animated universe, where Metropolis, I mean, they're both kind of
what, Gotham City and
what's the aesthetic?
What, in like the show, like in Batman the Animated Series?
Yeah,
or Gothic.
BioShock is.
Oh, I know. Now I'm trying to Art Deco.
Thank you, Art Deco. Yeah, they're both the cities are this Art Deco style, like like the highways in Metropolis are futuristic, and there's big atlases holding the globe, and the highways are going through these statues, and Gotham is like big, huge Art Deco buildings. It seems like they're kind of like identifying a style and maybe going for it, and kind of maybe they're gonna make their cities a little bit more unrealistic. What I think would be refreshing, because I really liked the way Palermo City looked.
Definitely.
And then we're in the Edge Keys, which I guess is where this, like the poorer part of the city is, which is where the Reyeses live. And it's like I think it looks like a pretty typical like Californian, like Spanish speaking population, sort of like it's run down like this.
Well, you got the super nice side, and then you
coming
have the
in and sort of buying up stuff, and gentrifying slowly. Because it seems like Cord, they're a weapons manufacturer at this point, and they seem to have a lot of power.
Yeah,
like if they're kind of control a whole city. But from the city skyline shots, we know Ace Chemicals is in Palermo, LexCorp.
Yeah. A lot of stuff.
So
there.
that's fine. That's like Man of Steel did the same kind of things.
Well, even it's funny, Man of Steel and even like Gotham and Metropolis and that, they kind of did just look like cities,
right? But I think that's like an identifying point. It's like, okay, like how did we do the cities before? They were normal. What is MCU doing? They're normal too. Why don't we just like not do that?
No, I agree with you. And the cool thing about the DC universe is that basically almost every superhero exists in a fictional city.
Yeah,
not many of them actually work out of real cities. We said this before, I think, but fun fact is the DC's Earth is slightly bigger than ours because it has all the fake cities as well as the real cities. Bruce Wayne is a Jersey man, just saying. Anywho, yeah, I think there is a really good point in that where you can go kind of big and different. You do have to work with, CGI backgrounds and stuff like that, though, then a lot, or even sets that you need to.
I didn't mind
and I'm fine with that, and I think they did a good job, and this movie definitely looked technically tight, but yeah, man.
No CGI hicks, like you said.
No, I really
Blue Beetle looks great, and we were talking about like there's some skin tightness to his suit, but as we classically do, comparing it to Spider-Man's suit, which I mean, there's definitely scenes where it's all CGI, and I was kind of saying, I'm like, maybe it's because it's not skin tight, and the Blue Beetle suit has some bulk to it that makes it look better than. Technically, I guess with a CGI Spider-Man suit, you're just making a CGI human figure, which is weird.
Sure.
Like, I think with the bulk, you have some room for for it to not be the uncanny valley.
Yeah, I never really have an issue. Like, I feel like his suit usually looks really good in most movies when I it's never really taken me out, but I thought 99% of the time, especially in Blue Beetle, I did not really catch a hiccup. Nothing really stood out where I was like, that didn't look good. Even like a lot of the fight stuff. I did think, Carapax's or Carapace or
Carapax, you're right.
His suit looked a little bit shiny at some points and looked a little bit out of place, but for the most part,
I just think it didn't look. I'm like, this just looks like a
not
Crimson Dynamo type character, just like big red mech suit, like nothing to write home about. Not as cool as Blue Beetle's. Like, I'm like, it's like the Red Beetle kind of thing. I don't even know if Carapax is a comic book character.
I think Captain Carapax is. I want to say again, and that's the other thing I will say with Blue Beetle.
DC
I don't know who you get to be a more notable villain for him, but I just would say don't.
Conrad Carapax. Yep, he is.
I would say don't just do a villain who's the same thing.
And he looks pretty much...
That's what I thought. Yeah. I think he was...
Just take a Google. You'll see what I'm looking at.
I assumed he was a real person, or like a real character.
I just like, I'm not going to act like I'm a Blue Beetle comic book lore
Well,
aficionado.
I'm a number one Blue Beetleite. All right. No.
And speaking of that, it's kind of funny in our own city in Philly, as of recording, the Art Museum steps have a Blue Beetle like mural on them. And it's just kind of like...
Well, they just haven't done...
kind of goofy.
They really haven't...
Blue Beetle's not a household name that I think like I don't know.
Well, what do you mean? It's advertisement.
It's weird art. It's weird marketing.
I mean, the art looked good, but it's
just like, and especially with the strike going on, which I definitely...
The marketing was next to nothing on this. I mean...
But was that due to the strike?
I think it was partly because of the strike, but a lot because they didn't want to sink any more money.
Like they had a red carpet premiere. Gunn and Safran were at something.
Yeah.
So what did they do? Hold a viewing party for people who worked on the film besides writers and actors?
Well, but if you host a viewing party, that's not necessarily promoting it unless you're out on the red carpet.
There were no press there.
That's what I mean. So that it probably was just a viewing party with the people, and then that was it. Like, because you're not really promoting it there if you're just going and watching the movie. And you aren't doing like red carpet shit and stuff like that.
I mean,
really
they probably
don't know how
had
it
this
works,
shit planned out, obviously, before the strike.
Yeah.
So,
but hey, man, the Snyder guys won. They boycotted this, and it's done. Gunn's universe is done before it even starts. Anywho, I don't know. Would you have anything else to say about Blue Beetle? I'm trying to think.
Yeah. I don't think I'm done just yet. We talked about Victoria Cord. Not good. I just think of the...
What do you mean?
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about her daughter.
No, I think she was fine.
Yeah.
What was her name? Jessica? No.
She's a pretty well-known Brazilian actress, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Jenny Cord, I think.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if she's a real character.
Oh, I want to get back to the Blue Beetle stuff. So, Dan Garrett? Yeah, Dan Garrett is the first Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
Ted Kord is technically like the second Blue Beetle.
Right.
I think Dan Garrett is like... You're like golden age. Like I don't think this character was like anything of like note.
Sure.
But like they were there. Ted Kord is really where the Blue Beetle starts, and like you were saying, he's like a super spy, and he makes all sort of like
he's more akin to
gadgets.
Batman. Yeah.
Sort of a goofy character. Hangs around with Booster Gold all the time. They've been in relationships in the comics recently. And then in the comics, like. So he has nothing to do with the scarab that you actually see in the Blue Beetle. So unlike, I guess most like let's compare Ghost Rider,
sure,
where the Ghost Rider mantle is passed out to another Reyes, Robbie, and it's the same, right? It's the same character, different look.
Sure.
But with Blue Beetle, from Ted Kord to Jaime Reyes, they're really like reinventing.
Yeah, they completely
character.
reinvent. Like he's a relatively new like character.
Yeah. So like like his power is space based, and like this organism is on his back, and it's from the Reach, and like where like again Ted Kord was just. I'm in a Blue Beetle suit. My name is Blue Beetle, and I have gadgets.
For sure.
It's totally
and they
different.
definitely tie it in more in this. I like the idea that like the first Blue Beetle used the scarab. Ted found out about it, and then he was like he couldn't access it, so he's
adapted.
Like, I'll just do what I can as a regular human being. I thought that was very interesting. There was a big rumor going around that like Jason Sudeikis would be Ted Kord in this. He like denied it fervently, and there was the picture of him on the wall looks like him for sure.
Maybe that's where the rumor came from. Or
yeah,
maybe
that might have
like
been why,
leak or something like that. But somebody like him for that character, I guess, would kind of make sense, right? Again, we were just saying he's like a funny character. He's not super serious like a Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So casting a comedian in that role,
it would make total sense. Yeah,
would make a lot of sense. Did you know that Night Owl is inspired by Ted Kord?
Yeah. He originally wanted... Jesus Christ, who wrote that? Alan Moore. He originally wanted to use a bunch of already created characters that were from Timely Comics or... No, Timely Comics used to be... But then they were like... DC was like, no. So he was like, all right, I'm going to make just alternate versions of them. Like, I can't remember who he wanted to use instead of Rorschach. It's very interesting. You should look it up. No, it wasn't Batman. It was actually... I think it was The Question. Actually, the guy with no face.
It definitely was The Question.
And
that's awesome.
Who else? Yeah, there was a bunch of people.
You're locked in here with me.
Yeah. And then Night Owl, I do think, I guess he was supposed to be a bit of like a Batman analog, but I don't think it was supposed to be Batman. It was people from, I believe it was Timely Comics.
We didn't talk about Rudy, George Lopez's character.
Oh, right,
I think he does a very good job.
I was going to say.
I don't think we've seen George Lopez in anything in a while.
No, I really liked his character.
He gave me
some genuine laughs.
Like in the trailers, like the Batman's a fascist comment. I'm just like, out of context.
That didn't bother me at all.
Out of context, I was like, what is this? I'm like, but like in context, kind of understanding the character a little bit more and where that line is actually placed. I'm good with it. I'm fine with it.
You can't call Batman a fascist. He's my hero.
It was just like a weird, like, I'm like, why is this in the trailer? And I'm like, but
no, I think it totally
and then,
works
like,
in the movie. Yeah.
You know, like the Blue Beetle aesthetic of like him having the Beetle that's like, like we were talking about. It's like, oh, it's like Archie from Watchmen because his, it's a big fucking owl ship.
Absolutely,
but it's a big Beetle.
I did love that that Beetle ship design, and even the action scene with it at the end when it was kind of fucking up the whole castle. I thought that was cool and very different.
Yeah.
I actually was kind of confused because I was like, why is this kind of so like, why is his tech so beat up and run down? Wasn't Cord Industries making money? But then I realized like, oh, he stopped selling weapons. So this was at the time where Cord Industries probably wasn't at the top of its financial game. So he was just having to use what he had to. But I mean, I did love seeing all the different suits in the background and things like that. Yeah, I really like the way they handled Ted Cord and all that. Again, I think all the stuff they do with Jaime in this, his family, and the Blue Beetle character work.
Speaking of the family, what did you think about, especially about Mr. Reyes kind of being the not martyr, the
Uncle Ben a little bit.
Sure,
yeah.
The Uncle Ben. That's a better way to put
it.
Yeah, and then like his death, sort of not rallying them to help Jaime because they're always kind of on his side, right?
Of course,
it's not like Jaime has
lights even more of a fire.
I like how, like, unlike Spider-Man or like any of these other characters, he's never hiding his identity. His family knows from the get-go.
Sure.
So that is kind of a change of pace in a way.
It is interesting, yeah.
Because like there's always the classic, hide your identity,
But
like,
I feel like that's never really done in
DC.
Movies. Well, in DC it is absolutely. That's like the number one place they do it. I think Marvel they do it way less. Like everyone in the Marvel universe, you know who they are basically. Spider-Man you did, now you don't. Whereas, like, Superman, no one knows Clark Kent is Batman, or Clark Kent is Superman.
Yeah, okay, maybe you're right.
Yeah, Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Because, like in Daredevil, there's, like, obviously he's hiding it from Foggy.
Definitely, don't get me wrong, there's a few for
Karen
sure, but I think most people in the MCU are known who they are.
True.
And I think, honestly, even Robert Downey Jr. just started that with Iron Man, because they didn't want to... I assume you know that. He just said that. Like he just ad-libbed that, and then they just went that way.
No,
he just because he was originally going to
improv.
Well, yeah, he was going to deny it originally, and they were going to do the bodyguard thing, and he was just like, "No, fuck that. I'm just going to say I'm Iron Man."
That's a good move.
It worked out. But I think the whole family dynamic, all that stuff, it's incredibly strong, and I think the father was one of my favorite characters, and I think that did hit well.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, his sister was, I guess, his sister and his Nana was pretty interesting.
I liked his Nana a lot.
Yeah, she's like this fucking like
where are they freedom
from?
Fighter?
Mexico?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, like this, like rebel freedom fighter.
I liked it a lot. I thought she was fun.
Yeah, like with the I kind of like it's kind of cringy in a way, but I'm like, all right, I'll just let it go.
I think they danced the cringy line very well for me, at least with the family. Even the sister, like she could have been really annoying, and I think they actually towed the line pretty well. But yeah, overall, I think they treated the family very well. The mom, I think, got the least amount of time. I would say you don't really get much with her at all. And again, Rudy, I think, is the strongest, being George Lopez's uncle. You're right. I think that's his first acting role that I remember. At least notable.
I mean,
one in a
Mr.
while.
Electric. I mean, come on.
Of course, that's true. I forgot my.
Yeah, I'm curious. What is George Lopez up to?
I know he still does he still like tours as his comedian and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Too, and things like that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense, right? Let's talk about the Scarab.
Again, we don't know anything about it, really.
Not that perspective, but how did you like its monologues with Jaime?
It was fine. I do think that they didn't. I feel like they didn't want to do Venom. They were afraid to step over into that thing of like where it's talking to him all the time, and I kind of liked that it wasn't like with him at all moments. But I don't know. It felt like they didn't want to fully commit to it being there all the time with him, because you'd be talking that thing a lot. It's in your body. It's embedded in your back.
Right.
I'd be like, where are you
when he's
from?
fighting, he does talk to it.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. I would have just expected more moments of them conversing by them, like not in a fight. Like him asking, like, what's going on? Like, why did you embed yourself in my back? Also, that would freak me the fuck out. If I pull up my shirt and there's something embedded down my spine.
It's always just kind of like sitting on his back. In this, it's really embedded into
No,
him.
yeah, you're right. It's usually just kind of clipped, but it's like the skin's around it. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. And removing it will kill him, which is, the symbiote kind of part of it. It's a symbiotic parasite.
Do you know much about like them in the comics? Because I really do. I know they're like sent there as they're sent there as like war machines to like take over the planet. I thought, right? Isn't the idea?
Yeah, there's a Reach arc in Young Justice.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Where there's like a green beetle too and stuff.
Yeah, the green and a black beetle. Yeah.
It's very interesting. I would have liked to seen them lean more into it, but I actually appreciate them just focusing on the more human side of the story for this first one and being like, all right, if we get the time, I think that's absolutely where they're going with the second one. And
right, if we get a second one, which I guess we will, because it seems like I saw some tweets that like, oh, like Blue Beetle will be back. I'm like, yeah, I believe that,
and I do too.
I don't need to see the scoop about it,
Like I don't know, I
that somebody just
is
like
it
made
this
up.
movie's fault? Like, is it this movie's fault that it's not doing well? I guess that's what we were talking with the thing of like,
what do you mean?
What could it have done more to maybe get more people in the theater? Do you think?
More of a time gap between this and The Flash.
That might have helped.
We need more time.
I still think The Flash blindsided the fuck out of them, and they just did. And then they were just like, "All right, all of our expected box offices are 30."
We have Aquaman in December, and then we're on a hiatus.
Yeah, until Superman, right?
Yeah, and that's even more delayed than it. When we originally talked about it because of the strike.
I think that seems to be written.
Is not close to ending.
Yeah, that's true. He cast it all before it. So at least they can go. No, they're not. Absolutely. But I guess the good thing is they can get started. They seem to have all the pieces in place to need to get started as soon as it comes back.
Real quickly, let's just like wrap up Blue Beetle because I just want to ask you something about the strike. Yeah, and it ends. Jaime, gets the girl, and that's
and
really
he doesn't kill the guy because he has a human connection with him. Which again, I think it works
with the Scarab. I like their monologues that goes from like kind of robotic, and then the Scarab like gets to know him because it's been attached to him for a little bit.
It bonds with him. Yeah.
I liked it. I'm like interested to see more of that. That's why I brought it up.
No, for sure, and that's what I mean. I wish they committed to that a little bit more throughout the movie, rather than just getting that moment at the end because it does work. Like the Scarab almost, like you said, it bonds with him. It's literally wrapping itself around his every cell, and then she's like, "No, I don't want to kill anyone now because I know you don't want to kill someone. I know you wouldn't be okay with that." It learns from it's good. I did like that a lot too.
Yeah, and then the Reyes lose their house when Cora attacks them, but and then Jenny's like, no more weapons manufacturing. We're gonna, I don't know what they're developing, but like, improve the lives of the people in the Edge Glades, in the Edge Keys, and in the city. So that's kind of where we leave off.
And then the after credit scene was a Ted Cord thing.
Right.
Again, I did appreciate my biggest appreciation out of this is that it was just about Blue Beetle. We didn't get like a follow up thing of like. And
so
Black Adam's coming in.
Right. My big thing was kind of like, is Ted Cord like in the multiverse or something like that?
I think no. I think he's out with the aliens. I think he talked. That's my. I don't see you going any other way than that. Because I guess there's definitely. Don't get me wrong. He could be, but I think the more interesting thing is to go with the alien stuff. Personally.
Yeah. So my question to you is, we don't know anything about the strike, but like, when is this going to end?
Honestly, Gooch, it could be. It seems like it's going to be going for a while. From what I'm seeing.
So we're going to have a long time without movies.
Bit of a content drought. That's for damn sure. They got a bunch in the can right now, of course, but there will be a time, especially if this isn't nipped in the bud within the next 2 months.
I would say like it would have to end by the end of the year.
Easy for there not to be
an issue,
a really bad issue. There's already going to be an issue.
Right.
Things are already going to be delayed for sure.
Yeah. Think about all the Marvel projects.
All the Marvel projects, but even just everything, like everything that does not receive, everything that is SAG-AFTRA connected, which is most things.
House of Dragons,
not because that's the European one.
Yeah, so we'll get that.
Certain things for sure will keep going, and even that's why they were talking about that cast. What were we talking about? Oh, that didn't even get confirmed or denied.
What are you talking about?
The Vanessa Kirby thing for Fallout.
That bullshit.
For Fantastic Four.
Like, what? I'm like, there's a strike going on.
But the reason I believe that is because they are British actors. They can be casted right now. So that's it, and they never came out and denied it.
Fucking scoop.
So I think that is true. Unfortunately or fortunately, whatever you think. I think those are fine actors, but they didn't come out and deny it, which I found interesting. We'll have our Scoops thing at some point, which I would love to talk about some of the craziest ones. But
yeah, I also just think it's a shame like these movies aren't getting the screening or the press. Like I think it does. It's gonna hurt them. Like I think once we get to Aquaman, it's gonna hurt Aquaman that Jason Momoa can't get in front of a camera and hype it up.
I agree.
Yeah, I think I think that's kind of like. I mean, the movie definitely had to take a hit. Blue Beetle definitely took a hit because of that. I mean,
for sure.
But
on top of just not having.
I also think the factor more is like. I don't know. I just don't think people care about this character, and unless you're a DC fan, you're probably not coming out. I don't think word of mouth is really gonna get out. Like,
well, again, it's like
I was at a party last night, and people were asking me like, a few people were like, "Hey, I was Blue Beetle," and I'm like, "Yeah, it was fine," and that was a big deal.
Yeah.
The fact that it was fine. Oh, it was just fine. Yeah, I'm like, it wasn't bad. It wasn't good.
See, I disagree with you being on it being. It's definitely good in my opinion. I wouldn't. The fine is like
you said fine earlier.
No, I was saying you're saying it's fine. I said it's good.
Yeah.
I said the good vastly outweighs the bad for me. But
I just don't think there's
like it's definitely. I didn't feel this movie wash over me. Like that's fine to me.
The
like,
third act, by the way, a little long.
I thought the beginning was the long part, where like they had to go back to Court Industries for like a second time, and then like they go through the thing of like he's discovering his powers and stuff. That's the problem. That's the real issue where I kind of have recommending it. Like I think it's a very well made movie, and I think the characters are well done. But there's nothing besides the character that's new about it. They don't really tackle the origin story in a different way.
Like how do you do that?
I don't know. I'd love to have a real sit down power hour and
like
talk
a video
about
game. Like you get the powers that I mean, like I guess it's gameplay, so it's a little different. Like, but like a character origin story, a character with abilities, like they have to have this period where I guess they're learning how to use it. In a game, it's like a tutorial, and when they first get it,
for sure,
it's not as like
you'll have. I guess I think that there are ways to do that are interesting and different. Don't put me on the spot and ask me how to do that right now.
Even Iron Man does it.
Sure, but I mean that's like that was the original, like almost like or not the original, but like that was the start of our modern day, like comic book movies.
It just seems like you either do it or you don't. Like even Batman Begins, like I don't think Batman Begins has a moment where like it's not a year one story
for sure.
But even the
Batman Begins definitely is absolutely. I mean, you see him train, you see him do
but he's not like going out and like fucking up.
He is. He gets he gets so fucked up at one point that he gets lit on fire.
Maybe I'm misremembering.
he gets fucked up by Scarecrow a lot. He gets fucked up when he goes to.
That's not the same. That's
he also gets fucked up when he goes to see Jim Gordon in his made up suit and he falls off the roof and he's like, "Fuck!" Like that's a year one for sure, Gooch. I got a harsh disagree with you there, pal.
It's not the same as Blue Beetle.
I agree because they're different characters in the way of like Batman doesn't get powers. That he has to explore.
Right.
Like he learns his tricks and trades through going to martial art, like from learning, from literally just sitting there and trying to study. So I think you kind of it's different for those two characters and how you can display that. And I think again that was one of the earliest times we ever even saw that happen for Batman, because all those other Batman movies you just start out and he was Batman. There's no like real. I mean, you saw his parents die, of course, but there's no in between that. You don't see him get trained by the League of Shadows and do all the other good stuff. I don't know, man. I think that these movies do have to just get shrunk down to the point where they have to think on their feet a little. I don't know. I think that's when you get the best stuff and having people who care. And I do think these directors care, and I think that they made an interesting story or a fun story, but it's not very different.
Well, hopefully, if anything, for the writer's perspective of this, like I don't know how we come out with like does the strike create a better environment for writers to write better stories? Is maybe
I don't think so. I think it's a budgeting thing, really, in my opinion, in the way of like how much we're spending on these movies. And this one was appropriately budgeted. It was like 125 million.
Written either. I don't want to.
I agree with that 100%.
Like I'm saying it's like badly written, but like when we get to like the classic like She-Hulk, like there was some bad writing here.
Sure.
That like I'm just using a specific example where I think the writing is the reason the thing is bad, not like maybe the direction, like, oh, the story's good here, but like it just didn't, it fall flat. Well, it's like, no, She-Hulk, the writing, like the story was not there. the CGI was not there. Like, we got meta, but like you're almost like this is almost too on point. Like, you're almost recognizing your own flaws, and that's a big deal.
Sure. It would be good if you recognize those flaws and then fix them.
It's not like Mattel and or with Barbie, right? Where they're just
but again,
like,
I think that's an even like those the things that Mattel does in Barbie are such surface level bullshit critiques of themselves that don't hurt. That really
don't hurt anything.
Yeah, like that's
I'm just right.
For sure.
I needed some sort of analogy.
Yeah.
Because like DC hasn't done anything like that.
Definitely.
Or maybe like Harley Quinn, if anything. The
I guess, and even the thing
pokes fun of DC and like making fun of the Snyder Cut. And stuff like that, or like getting, but like again, it's like it's not the same as that that Kevin scene in She-Hulk.
Kevin scene,
the robot, it's Kevin.
Oh right, at the end, right? Yeah.
Right.
I'm
where
sure
we our artists moved on to Wakanda Forever, so you have bad CGI. It's like that's not like
Again, it's one thing if you're recognizing that and trying to fix that.
Great,
but
thanks.
Yeah,
thanks for telling us, what's going on. Fucking idiots.
I don't know. I think we're in between a rock and a hard place in a lot of ways on a lot of these things, especially in the way of the writer's strike and stuff like that. I think a lot of the problem is these movies need a modest budget because this isn't going to be nearly as bad of a hole in the pocket for WB as The Flash is. The Flash is an absolute
and we never said
bomb.
it, but this was originally supposed to be an direct to HBO Max movie, just like Batgirl, and then they decided to pivot. And I don't really think that's a bad thing. But honestly, like maybe Blue Beetle would have been, not that it's being poorly received, but would have been received better if it was on streaming. But like,
I disagree.
I don't really know. I don't really like
this movie felt.
I don't really think I like really believe that.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of saying like a different opinion or a different take. Just to.
I think they completely fucked themselves over, HBO and Warner Brothers within the 2 years of COVID and putting all this stuff straight.
That's kind of the point where I go back to when is DC poison, and it's like because of like this stuff too.
Absolutely, it's not because of like the brand itself. It's because of the people who have been charged with taking care of the brand.
Right,
have been just so scattershot about it.
The HBO Max to Max thing lost them money. Why they needed to do it, God only knows why.
Well, Gooch, because a lot of HBO Max is a male-dominated viewership. Discovery was a female. You didn't see that slide that came out from one of their meetings? No. There was a whole big thing.
Oh my god.
HBO skews very male, very action-oriented, very blah, blah, blah. Like all these buzzwords. Discovery ranges female, this, that, the other. We need to combine these into one to get that.
And I understand that. I mean,
But again, I just don't even think it's
I understand, let's just put the Discovery in Max. Why not?
It's true, but maybe just call it HBO Max and then not make it.
But why change the name? Why make a new app? Why do all this stuff? I wonder if Harley Quinn makes fun of that.
It might.
I gotta watch that new season. Great show that nobody watches, probably.
Warner Brothers has really, just fucked up their whole shit these past 2 years. The only thing that really made it out unscathed was Dune. Somehow that did well on both in theaters and on HBO Max.
Well, it's kind of like Disney with their animated sector and their live action sector and their Star Wars sector and their Marvel sector. There's, I think Warner Brothers probably works the same way, and that's why Dune is good. And that's why
definitely. But again, that didn't really.
There seems to be some different arms of Warner Brothers.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's DC, and then you got Dune and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think that we are in a major state of change in the film industry right now. I'm very curious to see what happens. People put a lot of bets on streaming, and they did not play out. And it's an unsustainable business model, and they're learning it very fast. And now people are trained to get these movies at home within 2 months, and they're fine with that. And I don't know if that necessarily has anything to do with why this movie's doing bad. I think a lot of it is just people are just like, oh, another superhero movie that doesn't really seem to be bringing anything different to the table. I'll wait until it's on streaming if I want to even watch it at all. It's not like a Joker where it does feel different, or the Batman whose character has such a staying power that unless you make a truly awful movie, I think that property will always do well. And I think Superman will do well too. I mean, especially with James Gunn's track record and just that character in general. But yeah. I have nothing but faith in a movie that's made by him, but I don't know what's going to happen with this universe, and I hope we're just not getting ahead of our skis. Just make the one movie that's in front of you, and hopefully it's good. I don't know, Gooch.
It's just a shame that there's holes to climb out of,
to begin with. No, yeah. I mean, that's WB's fault. Genuinely, like that's the leadership at Warner Brothers' fault. They got scared after Batman vs Superman and took shit away from Zack Snyder, which they shouldn't have done. They should have just let him keep going. And then after that, they kept changing things up and kept doing that over and over again.
Right.
So
not once, not twice,
but 4 times,
6, 7
so
times.
I really don't have any sympathy for the brass tacks at Warner Brothers. I have a lot of sympathy for James Gunn and Peter Safran, who are going to try and dig themselves out of the hole that Warner Brothers has put them in. But at the same time, there have been certain steps even already where, especially even with the Flash, where I'm just like, you didn't give me a definitive ending here. I'm just very confused. I don't know what's happening. Right. And that's that.
Yeah. And and now we get these rumors about Gal Gadot being in talks to play Wonder Woman, and that's not true. And it's like, what's going on?
I think that was a meeting Gal Gadot, like, you know how at the end with Cavill, he's like, yeah, maybe we'll bring you back in for something down the road. I think she took that as like,
and that's what I said. I'm like, Gal
but again, I don't think she was lying.
What she's talking about.
But like, again, it just was such. It was just such a. I guess the reason I took it so seriously is because she said it with such, like, confidence that's why I was like, well, why would you lie about that? Again, I don't think she lied
doesn't
about.
Know what she's talking about.
She was just ill-informed. So I don't know, man. I just want some good movies. That's all I want.
So yeah, when is Creature Commandos coming out?
We don't really have a hard date on any of that stuff. I don't think. I know they're casts and like all that stuff.
I guess that's still going to be post Aquaman. So Aquaman is our next DC thing.
Yeah, which I hope does well.
Yeah, we'll see.
But if not, we'll see.
We'll see.
Otherwise, we don't have anything to cover over here. This is going to be bad. No, I'm kidding. Gooch, anything else on Blue Beetle?
That's it.
In the wider DC universe, that's going to do it. All right.
Good talk.
Thank you all so much for watching with us. If you've been with us live on twitch.tv/Delco Nerd Network, you can find all our podcasts on every podcast platform. Just search Delco Nerd Network. We're on all the favorite social media pages as well. We got a Facebook page. We have a Discord channel at Delco Nerds on everything. You can email us your comments, questions, or concerns, delconerds@gmail.com. We'd be happy to get back to you. You can find all this information on our website, delconerdnetwork.com. If you can subscribe, leave a review, it really helps the podcast here. We appreciate you guys watching. Anyone new here, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you and to speak with you. Gooch, I should say. I've been Trio. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay nerdy, and we will see you next time.